morning and welcome to midweek edition of Business Morning. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago. Well, the National Bureau of Statistics has just released the December inflation, and the inflation number increased to 11.44% year on year. This is 0.16% points higher than the rate recorded in November 2018. Our increases were recorded in all divisions that yielded the headline index. On month-on-month basis, the headline index increased to 0.74% in December, up by 0.06% from the rate recorded in November 2018. Food inflation went up to 13.56% year on year from 13.30% recorded in November 2018. And all is set for the launch of key policy documents aimed at facilitating the attainment of the financial inclusion target of 80% by 2020. The launch, according to the Central Bank, will hold on January 17 and 18 at its head office in Abuja. The policy documents to be unveiled are the revised National Financial Inclusion Strategy, the Financial Literacy Framework, the Consumer Protection Framework, and the Consumer Education Framework, which are expected to attract over 400 delegates. To achieve its financial inclusion targets, Nigeria, through the National Financial Inclusion Stakeholders, seek to cut the exclusion rate down to 20% by the year 2020. And the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has mapped out plans towards enhancing electricity generation and distribution in the new year. In its communique for the year, the Commission presented a heads-up on its regulatory initiatives planned for implementation in the year 2019, with a primary focus on improving market liquidity, funding of the revenue gap, and accumulated tariff deficits in the books of the electricity distribution companies. The Commission reiterates the urgency to close the metering gap and highlighted the strategies put in place for accelerated metering of end-use customers under the meter asset provider regulations. Our other key initiatives planned for 2019 include the completion of the ongoing enumeration of customers, promotion of embedded generation, and creation of new investment opportunities through distribution franchising. All right, experts have continued to churn out projections on the 2019 economic outlook, and this time at a session in Lagos, some economists and financial experts drilled down into key areas such as investment inflows, development in the capital market, and regulations. The professionals are also of the view that offshore investors need to incentivize to attract more inflows due to low commodity prices. Let's take a listen.
The CCI is for me, is a huge incentive for private sector investments offshore to come into Nigeria, where there is easy inflow of money and easy outflow of money. The import-export window, in my view, is also something that I think is commendable. However, the stability of the foreign currency, where it is almost like being held down, it gives me concern. Because what it means is that you don't even know, you can sit down today. I mean, if you sit down one day, we were at 150, and then the next day, or maybe not about, we got to like 500, which means we need to be careful how we manage it. It's better for it to be gradually devalued than for it to almost like be step, where you are 350 today, and then the next day, it just goes from 350 to 500. So I think these are areas that I see. There are a few other things I see that I think something needs to be done. Again, I'm talking more investment. A lot of business in Nigeria or industries in Nigeria are fragmented. And the reason for that is they're not adequately capitalized. We don't like partnership. So I think, and a few things have happened. We've seen 89 banks become 25 banks, and they're all almost relatively stronger. I mean, that's not to say you won't have one or two that would have problems. But there's need to also do the same in important sectors, especially where they're regulated. Whether it's insurance, I know the insurance tried to do something, and then there was almost like pushback. and they had to reverse it. But I think there's need for that. I mean, Nigeria is one of those places where you have more stockbroking firms than companies listed on the stock market. So there has to be something that is done. And if you look at the trades that are done with them, you see some people only do like one trade a month. So the question is, why give a license to somebody who is doing one trade a month? So I think the whole area of, especially where businesses are regulated, there needs to be something done to see how we can make sure that they are more strengthened than the way they are today.
One thing we need to get clearly is that Nigeria operates within a global spectrum. So we are not insulated to what is happening globally. So, and when you talk of investment, talk of capital movement, capital will always situate itself where it's better utilized and where you're going to get, highest return. So looking at what is happening in the global space vis-a-vis Nigeria, and most of the economic reform that we have seen in the recent times have not really addressed to, bring the FPIs and FDIs to come into the country. So when we talk of investment now, given 2018, you see what happened in Nigerian capital market. It fell to almost 11.7%, year on year. This is very critical because at the end of the day, at the beginning of last year, the first quarter of the year, you see the capital market rallied. And you see a lot of, based on the fact that at the end of 2017, we are judged one of the best investment climate in the world as Nigeria. So you see a lot of, FPIs coming to Nigeria. But you look at even the structure of Nigerian markets now, you see more of foreign players than the local players. So whenever there is any uptick outside there, you see a mass movement, which is, all the time creating the volatility within the Nigerian space, which is not healthy for us as a nation. So that is one. Two, you look at what is happening in the US. Last year, by the time you see the Federal Reserve, US Reserve, elevating their interest rates, it's a serious issue for Nigeria. Because what it means is that investors will definitely relocate to an environment whereby they are better situated and paid for. So it's very, very key to consider the fact that there is every need for our government to put in place the right reform. Let's look at what is happening as far as the capital market is concerned in Nigeria. For more than 2 years now, the Security and Exchange Commission has got no board to pilot the affairs. This ought to be a regulator. Again, almost 8 months now, we have been on acting capacity. These are the people that are going to put in place structures that is going to run, create an enabling environment for investors to come in here. So while government play a very key role in, incentivizing the environment and creating an enabling environment for investors to strive on.
What my clients are looking for, well, the first thing they're looking for is growth. So they have the choice of investing in Asia, India, say, growing at 7 or 8% a year, or Africa, and they look at the two biggest economies in Africa, South Africa and Nigeria. They're both growing at about 1%, 1 or 2%. So they don't put as much money on the continent as they would do into India, for example. So the headline growth number is like first question. And the second question is, okay, well, Nigeria's growth is only 1 or 2% today, but they can all look back at their tables from 5, 6 years ago and it was growing much more strongly. Is it going to come back to that 7 or 8% growth?